So this is a segue into, does it matter where you live? Does it matter where you live if you're trying to get approved for disability? That's the first bucket of questions and topics I want to go through. And then, does it matter where you live once you're approved? And this is a question from Richard on our YouTube channel. It says, can my wife live outside the United States with SSDI benefits? Doesn't say anything about him going with her. I don't know if he's going to send her outside the U.S. or not. But so that's one of the topics that we can go through and kick around here. So first of all, let's start with the topic of those that are trying to get approved for disability. If you're trying to get approved for disability, do you have any insight if it's going to be different to get approved in Orange County, California, or Orange, Florida, for example? Like, does geography really matter?
Yes, it does.
All right. Okay.
The rule is that you're not able to work anywhere in the United States. But the reality is when you have an administrative judge, they technically look at the region you live in, not the whole United States, but the region. And so, for example, North Dakota is very rural, but the region that they look at is Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, so that it gives a bigger pool of potential jobs that they could do. So even though technically the requirement is you can't do any work available in the national economy,
Mm-hmm.
reality is they do look at a region.
Okay. And because the job classifications or types of job in the region that you referenced would be different than Orange, Florida, for example, it would impact the approval process. Is that correct?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Good one.
I agree.
Any others you can think of?
Population is, you're saying region or by state, but I think it seems that, at least in New York in terms of areas, it's the population that determines, because it's how many they can process. So for instance, in New York City, it's basically assumed, and I think almost that, everyone's thrown out 3 times before they even get a chance to go to the judge.
Interesting. Because of the volume, they're trying to, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that would make sense. I mean, the volume of cases in a densely populated area is going to be different. You would think that they would be able to process based on population, but yeah.
The other thing too is that when it goes to the disability determination services, it goes to different offices depending on where you live. So the doctors reviewing the medical records will be different depending on where you live. You might have a doctor that's more lenient when looking at medical records in one certain area than in another. So you could technically have someone with the same disability having 2 different disability determination units reviewing the file and coming up with 2 different decisions.
Okay, good. What about this one that I have on the list, which is SSI welfare, the access to Medicaid? How do you see or that impacting the ability to get approved in, North Dakota versus Orange, California, or Burlington, Vermont?
I think that really doesn't matter.
In what way?
You're in Miami-Dade, you'll find a lot of people that get on the SSI, but if you go Palm Beach County, it's going to be more difficult for people to get on SSI.
Right.
The judge in my case asked me, or basically tried to tell me that, why would I do that I'm already collecting from New York City? Why would I want to get my Social Security benefits we had, at that time we had a bit of a discussion about that, it was very strange. I didn't appreciate it.
Eric, are you, want to make sure I understand. So you were collecting a SSI cash payment and Medicaid when you went to court for your disability case?
No, I was on a New York City program. They have a program here called HASA for people who have HIV. So they it's like enhanced welfare, I guess. You get a little bit more money, and you get Medicaid. But isn't Medicaid based on simply income? I can't,
No. You have to be disabled. You have to be, in order to get Medicaid, you have to meet either disabled or taking care of a child, like an AFDC, TANF person, or elderly. I mean, there are requirements for Medicaid that are tied to disability. Now there are, like in California has a state disability program that you pay in from your paycheck. So people can collect that while they're trying to get disability benefits. But as far as SSI individuals being treated differently than Social Security in the Social Security process, I don't think so. As far as determining disability, obviously income and resources count towards SSI and not towards Social Security. But as far as the treatment of them as individuals, I think that they're treated the same as Social Security individuals. And if they can get Medicaid, anybody, that's a huge benefit. Because so many don't have insurance.
What about the national program now, Obamacare, whatever? Would that tie in, make more people have basically the same issue?
It does, but my understanding is you still have to pay for it.
So no matter how much money you have.
Typically, yeah. Yeah.
Your asset level or money that you make normally has to be above $12,000 per year.
Yep.
I will say that there's been a lot of changes to that I'm myself am not familiar with, because just in the last few months, they've done a lot of advertising here about, recheck, because you might be able to get benefits for like $10 a month. And it used to be that you had to have some income in order to get on Obamacare. There was kind of a catch-22 because you had to have some income. But I don't know if that's still true. I think that needs some research by somebody.
No, you do. You have to have some income to get on Obamacare. However, when I was doing Obamacare, you had to make at least over $12,000 a year. If you didn't, you had to look at Medicaid as far as getting some income coming.
Right. But I think something may have changed, Daphne, because there's a lot of advertising to the contrary. So I'm wondering with Biden in there, if there's been some change, and with COVID, I think because of COVID too, there's been some changes to that. I just don't know offhand without doing some research what those are.
I don't know either, but I know that in the discussions you always hear the states talking about the Obamacare and then Medicaid. So it sounds like that, if you don't make the money, the federal government is assuming then you're eligible for Medicaid, whether the state is accepted or not would seem to make sense.
Well, I think part of it is that in order to have insurance, you're supposed to be able to pay for some of it. It's like, you're going to get this, but we want you to participate in the payment. That was because when you first thought that program first started, you had to join, it was mandatory. And so now I think that's kind of what they originally were looking at is, well, you have to be able to pay some premium. We want you to participate in your own care, basically.
Even with Medicaid, they have premiums sometimes of $2 and $3 that the person has to pay just to get to see the doctor.
A copay, you mean?
Yeah, copay.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And, you know, anyway, I think that needs some research, and I don't know who's going to do it, but.
Well, I'll wrap up the SSI thing unless we have any more with this experience that I've had. In the state that I live in, you can access Medicaid without having the disability component, just simply on your family's resources.
Exactly.
And you can get, and so I, in looking at other states around, what I encourage the audience to do is to take a look at it, because it may not require the disability component, but for most of our people that we're talking to, they have that or likely meet that anyway. But
Brian, a question on that, please.
Yeah.
So you can apply for Medicaid as a single person with no kids, 35 years old, without proving disability just because you have low income?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. And you can, but yeah, I mean, for some states that have that, that's a game changer, in my opinion, for people that are trying to get treated so they can get through the process. So definitely check it out.
Yep.
I always tell people that I'm talking to that don't have insurance to contact their county social service office to apply for Medicaid.
Yep.
That is something I do with every client that has no medical and no insurance.
Good advice. The next topic is approval rates per state. And I have done some research on this. And this is my opinion. I'll see if anybody else has another one. There is data out there. There's 2 website links that I have up on the screen that go through and they show their approval rates per states. And there's certainly some difference. There's not glaringly different statistics except for Hawaii. But the data that those statistics are a result of analyzing data that Social Security puts out that looks super complicated, way above my brain capacity to come up with these, and they're not consistent between like source 1 and source 2. So for those that are out there, I mean, if you have to apply for disability, you have to apply anyway. The approval rate per state, I mean, unless you're willing to move anywhere where it's like super attractive, I don't have much to add on that as being a valuable driving factor. Anybody else have an opinion on that? All right.
I don't think people say, oh, I'm going to move to that state so I can get approved for disability or SSI.
Yeah. Well, you know, we do have one individual right now that actually is moving from Texas to North Carolina because he is of the belief that it's easier. And
really,
you know, yep. I think he'd do fine anyway. We had no part in encouraging him, but yeah. So the last piece on this is the judges. And there's a resource that we've used for years to educate people on the approval rates of judges in different hearing offices. And that definitely is a driving factor. However, there's been some changes in the reporting on this. I'm just going to put this website up on the screen and then I'll give you my verbal on it. And in a hearing office in Dallas, Texas, North Dallas, there's a variety of judges there, like maybe as many as 30. And it used to be on this website that they would publish their case approval rates, like what their percentage was of all the cases that they would see. but they've taken that information down. And what the issue is with that is a common approval rate for a disability judge is going to be 55-60% range. But there's more than one judge in the Dallas North office that had 19 to 21%. So if you're thinking about going to a hearing and you could possibly be ending up in Dallas North in front of that 21 or 19% guy, it's definitely going to matter where you live.
Mhm.
And I know there's certain representatives, disability attorneys, that I know that personally will not take cases in certain regions because there's judges in the hearing office that have just horrid approval rates. So that definitely is a factor. Now, at the time of this recording, I don't know how to get that data because it's no longer published, but it certainly is an issue.
When we were representing people and ran into that, a lot of times, frankly, if we pulled the judge that we knew was extremely tight on his approvals, we would advise the client, look, we can go ahead, but you've got a judge. You pulled a judge that isn't so great. You might want to request a postponement so that you get the next judge in the in line. Because you can have like a huge variant. You can have some judges doing 80, 85 approval and then some doing 20.
Oh, I feel terrible for these people. You know, they work all this time
It's horrible.
to get in front of somebody, and I've gone on this rant before, but it's the same rules, same regulations, and you're
Yep.
definitely in the minority of doing this. Like, 10% of the judges, if that, or not even that. I mean, 1 out of 30 or 40. So it's tough
The
for sure.
doctors in the hearing room would matter too, because the doctor in the hearing room is who saved me. The judge and I were not getting along. He was very upset with me. But then the doctor counted apparently their points.
What
And so
doctor?
there was a doctor in my hearing room. There were 3
Really?
people, a doctor, an administrative judge, and someone recording it, I guess.
Are you
Yep.
sure it wasn't a vocational expert?
I'm pretty sure he was a doctor.
We've
A
had doctors
psychologist?
actually for, I can think of 2 people recently that doctors that Social Security appointed. Yep.
Really?
Mhm.
That's something new for me.
They counted my points. The doctor actually really interrupted the judge because he thought it was getting a little bit hostile. And he said, no, I make the points criteria. And I heard him, he said 12 points for something. So because of all the different ailments I have together, I was able to make the cut, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm surprised they're going to that expense. I mean, they always have a voc expert, but
Mhm.
that surprises me that they would go to the expense of
The,
having a
the,
doctor
two,
there.
the 2 that I'm familiar with had mental impairments, and I actually listened to the hearings, and they did a deep dive on the medical, and it may be a situation where the judge is like, you know what, I'm not,
Familiar
I'm
enough.
not super comfortable with this. I want to give
Yeah.
it a fair shake. Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yep.
But representatives definitely have to be prepared for that.
Sure. Yep. So let's, Brian Tarian here. This concludes the Does It Matter Where You Live to Get Approved video. The separate topic for those of you that are approved is going to be produced in a different video. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And here at the Disability Digest, the videos that we put out provide with you hopefully would like the big picture type of stuff. And if you are not a member with us, we invite you to join us, and then we can understand more about your situation and provide you with specific information to help you get, keep, and maximize your disability benefits. So if you like the work that we do with the videos and educational, just give us a like, share the video, ring the bell so you can stay tuned for more. So thanks again for listening. This has been Brian Terry, and make it a great day.